Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Bolt Breakdowns here on the Guilty as Charged podcast YouTube channel. Today on the show, I want to talk about picks 1 through 12 and how I think they'll play out and how that affects the Chargers' decision making at 13. So that's going to be the main topic today. But first, I want to thank Austin Eckler for coming on the show yesterday. It was really fun, and by now you guys have seen the interview. So thanks to Austin for that. And I also want to thank our sponsor, Manscaped. Use code GUILTY for 20% off your first purchase today and fix your hygiene. I probably look like a mess right now, though, so I'm not one to talk, but use code GUILTY for 20% off. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video. The first round pick. It's going to be a big deal, sort of regardless of what happens. And I think it'll be interesting to see how these first 12 picks play out. But I sort of wanted to give my extended thoughts. I already did a little bit of a mock draft on the Draft Network, and you can see on the right the players that are available. But this will be kind of an interesting exercise. Unfortunately, I can't pause the mock draft and talk about every pick as it happens because I don't have TDN Premium. But, the draft already played out. So let's just talk about it. Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, no surprise there at number 1 and number 2. The big question is here, right? Number 3 with the Niners. They have the choice of Jones, Lance, or Fields, and they're going to go quarterback. Pretty obvious at this point. But, which one it will be, I don't know. But it kind of doesn't matter for the Chargers, in my opinion. As long as San Francisco is taking a quarterback, I think you're largely going to see some of these same players available when the Chargers are on the board. The real inflection point here is number 4 with the Falcons, because they're rumored to be kind of deciding between a couple of options, and there's some organizational disagreement about what they should do. They could obviously take Justin Fields. They could take Mac Jones. They could, really establish the quarterback position there behind Matt Ryan and get a guy to learn behind him. Or, another name that's been rumored for them is Kyle Pitts, right? So he is, regarded by many as the best pass catcher of this draft. And I can't say he would be a mistake at that point. And, him, Calvin Ridley, Julio, that would be fun. Penei Sewell was also a bit of a rumor for the Falcons at this pick. So they do decide to go quarterback here, which is a big deal. And we'll sort of get into the number of quarterbacks that should go off the board for the Chargers a little bit later. Jamar Chase to the Bengals. I've been saying Jamar Chase will go to the Bengals, and I will continue to say it until I'm proven wrong. But I just think it makes a little bit too much sense for the Bengals. I know that they have a need at an offensive tackle, but I just think that they're not going to resist pairing Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow again, and maybe they'll go get an Alex Leatherwood in the second round. Whether that's the right thing to do, I don't agree there, but I do think it is what will actually end up happening. The Dolphins, another sort of inflection point in this draft in terms of position player. Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver, goes there. There's been talks about the Dolphins trading out of the 6th pick, even though they just traded into the 6th pick with the Eagles. And there's also been rumors that the Eagles now want to trade back up. So it's just like, why did you guys do that trade? But, you have the Dolphins here taking Jalen Waddle. I think it's very possible that that could be the pick. You also have the other Alabama stud, Devonta Smith, here. I do think Miami will pursue an offensive weapon, whether that's a wide receiver or, if the Falcons do pass on Kyle Pitts and he winds up there at 6, that's a very possible selection as well. Then we have the Detroit Lions taking Penei Sewell. We have Raeshawn Slater. So this begins kind of the run on tackles. And it's important where these tackles get picked, obviously, because you've seen some scenarios where Raeshawn Slater falls to 13, some where Penei Sewell falls. This has been the talked about trade-up spot recently with the Lions that, Benjamin Albright reported, or not reported, but, kind of threw out there as a little interesting footnote on this draft. And yeah, I think this is probably the spot where if the Chargers want to, they would have to trade up for Penei Sewell around 7, potentially around 8. I don't think it's a lock that the Lions are going to go offensive tackle. I think that they're the real wild card in these first 13 picks, or the first 12 before the Chargers. Micah Parsons was a name that was rumored for them, but I could also see them going offensive tackle or, a skill position player to help up Jared Goff there. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, because out of all of the teams in this top 12, I think they're the most uncertain, especially with their reported desire to trade back in the draft. Raeshawn Slater goes to the Panthers. This has been the name for the Panthers for a while. Benjamin Albright, again, was another, sort of report there. They do kind of like Slater over Sewell, reportedly. So I think that they will probably go, if they don't trade out of that 8th selection to the Patriots or some QB needy team, I think that they're going to take a tackle. And also, they sort of need one, especially after Russell Okung's departure, and they never truly filled that void. They do have Taylor Moton on the other side, but they do need some tackle help. Mac Jones is going to the Denver Broncos in this mock draft. Again, I think the most important thing for the Chargers is how many quarterbacks are taken, because I think in most TDN draft scenarios in the top 12, you'll see something like 80% of the time, 5 quarterbacks are taken in the top 10, maybe 15% of the time, 4 quarterbacks are taken in the top 10, and then maybe 5% of the time, 3 quarterbacks are taken in the top 10, right? So the number of quarterbacks based on the position players they'll have left to choose is super important for the Chargers. I do think it will ultimately be 5, much like the 2018 draft with Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen. I do think that you're going to see 5 quarterbacks taken in that top 10. So Denver gets Mac Jones. I would not be surprised if Denver maybe did a short trade up with Miami to get the quarterback that they want. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Dallas gets Kyle Pitts after a long slide. I think this one is a little bit unrealistic, because I do think a team like Miami could take Kyle Pitts. A team like Detroit could also take Kyle Pitts. I mean, I know they have Hawkinson, but Kyle Pitts is your ultimate offensive weapon, right? He's kind of your king card in that regard. So I think that Kyle Pitts is going to go before here, but that'll be interesting to see where Kyle Pitts goes. If he does fall to Dallas, I think they'll take him. But if he's already off the board, this is one of those scenarios where Surtain or Horn probably comes off the board. But they don't here, so that kind of helps the Chargers. As you can see, JC Horn is still available, so we'll get to that in a bit. The Giants take Devonta Smith. This has kind of been the rumor coming out of there that they really, really like Devonta Smith. So I think that's probably the direction they'll go if he's still on the board. A lot of teams, we saw the Dolphins take Waddle, do like the high upside ceiling of Waddle over Devonta Smith. And there's also questions about Smith's frame, unfortunately, even though I think most of those, concerns are kind of garbage. But what are you going to do? It's the NFL draft and teams overthink things. Patrick Surtain goes to the Eagles at number 12. I would probably go crazy on stream about the pick, but because the Cowboys don't pick Surtain or Horn, that means that, the first best corner of the draft, whichever one you think that is available here, including Caleb Farley, right? There are some people that still overlook the injury concerns and see the potential. So all the cornerbacks are available here for the Eagles at 12. Let's talk about the Chargers now, because you've sort of seen how this board has played out, and you have JC Horn available. You have Micah Parsons. Christian Darrisaw obviously has been the rumored name if the Chargers stay there, but also Caleb Farley. He's kind of vaulted back up draft boards even after the injury concerns. A lot of Chargers fans also like Tevin Jenkins. And so that is an interesting scenario. I've debated with people Christian Darrisaw versus Tevin Jenkins. Obviously, Steven and Tyler, I think, lean more in the Jenkins direction. I lean more in the Darrisaw direction just based on his efficiency and his physical tools and skill set. But there are some people that question his effort, and I don't think that's fair personally. But, if you really like Tevin Jenkins, he is a guy that goes all out on every play. But personally, in this scenario, I probably take Christian Darrisaw, although JC Horn is obviously very tempting. But like I said, I don't know if JC Horn will be on the board because that all depends on what happens here, right? We can probably refresh this mock draft, and I just want to do this to see sort of what would happen, right? If we redo this mock draft and Kyle Pitts doesn't fall to 10, because I think Kyle Pitts falling to 10 is ultimately pretty unlikely. We have Trevor Lawrence, we have Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, a bit unrealistic here, but the number of quarterbacks kind of will stay the same, I think. Or no, actually, I think we just had 4 quarterbacks go there. We did not have Mac Jones go off the board, right? He's still on the board. So in this scenario, the Chargers are dealing with 4 quarterbacks off the board instead of 5, which I don't think is as good for them, just because that creates a run on position players that, you're going to have one less of Surtain or all of those kind of guys available to pick. But in general, you see the first 3 picks are quarterbacks. I'm not going to get into what happened here, but you do see the first 3 picks are quarterbacks. Then the Falcons take Kyle Pitts in this draft. I think that's certainly a possibility for them. Jamar Chase to the Bengals, similar to last time. Then you have Jalen Waddle, Penei Sewell, Raeshawn Slater, virtually the same as last time. Then we, in this one, the Broncos get Justin Fields. And I think I speak for all of us if that happens, we would all be super pissed. But it's a possibility for sure. Patrick Surtain goes to the Cowboys in a blow to my heart. But I kind of think that may be the pick for them. They're going to probably pick, if Kyle Pitts isn't on the board, between Surtain and Horn. I don't think it's as certain as people think that they're going to take Surtain, because I could see them taking JC Horn and Jerry Jones rolling on it with, the athlete or the perceived more athletic one between the two. So it wouldn't surprise me. Or, Jerry Jones could also go, hey, I want Devonta Smith because he's a wide receiver and I want my offense to be incredible while my defense crumbles. Who knows? The Giants actually go edge here. They go with Jalen Phillips. They do also like Phillips a lot, apparently, from what you hear. So I do think edge that early would surprise me for them. But it is a need. But I also could see them going potentially offensive tackle, potentially wide receiver. I do think they ultimately will go with Devonta Smith. And in this scenario, because we just had 4 quarterbacks taken, and because Kyle Pitts didn't fall, in this scenario, neither Surtain or Horn are available for the Chargers. And that's one of the ultimate, things that will decide it, right? You can kind of simulate the mock draft a bunch of times, but if you have fewer quarterbacks taken and Kyle Pitts isn't there for the Cowboys at 10, this is kind of the situation that I think will happen, although I think the Giants will take Devonta Smith. So then in this situation, you have Darrisaw, Devonta Smith, Micah Parsons, and those are, I think this group of 5 or 6 here is really the choice for the Chargers. I think they would probably lean Darrisaw, but it wouldn't shock me if they went Jenkins, and it wouldn't shock me if they went Caleb Farley, just because of the cornerback need. Devonta Smith would be BPA here, I guess, or actually, the Draft Network ranks Micah Parsons a little bit higher. He's another inflection point in this draft that I'll get to when we resimulate it. But Devonta Smith would be kind of an interesting BPA situation. I don't think Tom Telesco would actually do it, though. I know what he said in his press conference yesterday, but that's, that's a matter of, do you believe what he says, because before last year's draft, he said he was okay with the linebacker depth, and then he took Kenneth Murray after trading up back into the first round. So, how much can you really trust that stuff? I don't know. But let's simulate it one last time just to see sort of what we get. A little bit of a change here with Penei Sewell going to the Bengals. But you see largely the same things play out. In this, you actually have 3 cornerbacks go off the board because the Broncos take one. Which would be sort of interesting. But this is one of those scenarios where you have 3 quarterbacks taken and not 5. I think this is very unrealistic because I do think there will be 5 quarterbacks in that top 10. But this creates one of the situations for the Chargers. Darrisaw is most likely to be available still. But, it does create a situation where Surtain, Horn, Waddle, Smith, they wouldn't fall to the Chargers to be able to take in a situation where only 3 quarterbacks go off the board. But you do have Kyle Pitts, Penei Sewell, possibility for the Bengals, even though I do think they'll go with Jamar Chase. Then you have a slight run on wide receivers here with Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle. The Panthers still take Raeshawn Slater, which has been the most consistent pick kind of on here. Patrick Surtain. The Broncos don't go quarterback. I guess that'll depend on which guy is on the board and which guy they like, but they take a corner. Then the Cowboys take a corner. Then the Giants take Devonta Smith. And the Eagles take Caleb Farley. I wouldn't be psyched with that pick, which you would know if you watched our Thursday podcast this week. But it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I guess in this scenario, again, I'm probably still taking Christian Darrisaw. But you can make an argument for Micah Parsons potentially there as BPA. That's not a QB, and that's a talking point as well. And again, some fans do like Tevin Jenkins. I do have to acknowledge that. I like Tevin Jenkins too, just not at that pick over Darrisaw. So let's simulate it one last time and sort of see how the cookie crumbles. You have Trevor Lawrence again with this. I don't know what they're doing with Zach Wilson here, but he's pretty certain to be the second quarterback off the board. And wow, we get almost the exact mock draft as last time, although I think it is unrealistic. So to summarize, I think that the things for Chargers fans to watch on draft night are how many quarterbacks are taken in the top 5. I do think it'll be 4 or 5, in the top 10. I do think it'll be 4 or 5, but how many exactly it is will determine which position players are available. Where Kyle Pitts goes, I think, is another storyline, because you could see a team like the Cowboys maybe make a move for him, but if the Falcons take him at 4, that's obviously a moot point. But the Falcons could also go quarterback, right? And I think in the first mock draft we looked at, they actually did take one. So that will be something to watch. Obviously, I think Penei Sewell, Raeshawn Slater, if they do start to slide past a certain point, that could create a situation where the Chargers are more likely to trade up. I don't think they will actually trade up before the draft, like maybe some people expect. I think it would be a as it happens kind of thing, and as people start to see the board going the way it is. In this situation, we actually had Micah Parsons go. I think Micah Parsons is maybe the top 10 pick that a lot of people aren't talking about, so his inclusion in the top 10 would help the Chargers quite a bit, just because it's more likelier at that point than a quarterback or a position player falls. In this case, it was Waddle that fell and Devonta Smith. So you can see how the inclusion of Parsons or 3 cornerbacks affects some of those situations as well, although I don't think they're necessarily realistic situations. All right, so I want to sort of break down how I think the board will happen now. So I do think with the first pick, the Jaguars select Trevor Lawrence. With the second pick, the Jets select Zach Wilson. With the third pick, I think the Niners do select Justin Fields. We'll see how that actually turns out. Number 4, I think the Falcons select Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida. Number 5, I obviously think the Bengals do select Jamar Chase. At number 6, I will say the Dolphins take Jalen Waddle as a wide receiver. They could also go Devonta Smith here, but again, that doesn't really change the math for the Chargers in a way, just because, again, it would be another receiver coming off the board. 7, I'm going to say the Detroit Lions go with Micah Parsons. I know they could take an offensive tackle, but as it stands right now, I think they take Parsons. So I would sort of slot him in here. Then I do think the Panthers will take Slater, and this is the part that's probably going to get me killed. I think the Broncos, if teams stay where they stand, do end up with Penei Sewell. And then I think you'll probably have the Cowboys and the Eagles take cornerbacks, although the Eagles in this scenario could take someone like Devonta Smith, but maybe the Giants take him before. So I'd probably guess that the Cowboys do go Patrick Surtain, the Giants go Devonta Smith, and then the Eagles are left with a J.C. Horn, a Caleb Farley, or perhaps one of the receivers if they do fall. But let me know what you think is going to happen in the top 12 in the comments below. And based on that top 12 scenario, who do you want the Chargers to take if a cookie crumbles a certain way? But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll be responding to them when I can. But yeah, draft is only 5 days away. I'm very excited. And obviously, as always, bolt up.